But before we go, we've got a nice reveal for everyone. We mentioned last week that week 8 signaled the end of the first semester, and like with every semester ending, we'd like to present some grades. Give out some awards. We've got a group of deserving managers who've made the dean's list, and some that gonna need some help, gonna need some work. So tell us
Yeah,
about what we got going on.
yeah, it's grade season. And like the end of every semester, there's some unfortunate news and, some areas in which, some franchises or teams, have to improve in. Um, and so, we'll unfortunately start with the bad news, which is we've got a couple of teams on academic probation.
Oh
This
man.
is the New York Lanike, the Kings, the Titanas, or the Titans, or whatever name they're rebranding themselves at. The grade doesn't change. It's just um, they've got to take some time and do some studying, maybe review some film, maybe do some consultations with do some office hours, with the professors because they're just having a stressful and struggling first semester, um, and this is this is this is Dr. Dane Andre and Professor Kilonomics, letting our doors open. Let us know. We're here to help. We can give you tips and tricks and figure out ways that you can be the best organization
Yeah,
that
we want
that
to see
that
everybody
that's
win.
possible.
We want to see everyone win. And I know everyone can't win, but everyone can certainly be competitive. And this is only to help improve the standings and give everyone some confidence. We want everyone to feel good about what they're doing in this league. So let's take a
Yeah,
look at
and then
the overall grades in the association. Yeah, continue.
yeah, and so we had some shining stars, aka the guys which are excelling in almost every field of human endeavor. And so these guys, have made the dean's list. This is the Phoenix, Great Danes, Money Men, Celtics, GameStop, 17ers, Busters. And I think one thing you might notice is that, for a lot of these teams, they're not necessarily contending teams.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of different courses or a lot of different categories in which we consider each semester. And so we'll go through that with a report card. So so we had four courses, for the semester. The first is performance, and this pretty much speaks for itself, right? A lot of it, is based off of how you're doing in the standings, and do you have a chance of possibly winning a championship. The next is in-season moves. So are you wheeling and dealing? Are you you know, making the transactions to make your team better, to give your team a better chance, whether it's now or whether it's in the future, right? Like, we understand, there's only going to be one winner, right? So if you can recognize that, hey, maybe my team is not going to have a shot and I need to start building for a future, that's also important.
Mhm.
The next category is the off-season moves, and so this is talking about maybe some of the trades, different things you did with the salary cap, to allow your team some flexibility to maneuver and build a strong and lasting roster. And then this last category is community engagement, right? So what are you doing? What are you doing to brand the franchise? Are you coming to office hours? Are you giving that feedback that's required? because it's all about, bringing good vibes, not only internally to the organization, but also, to within the community and within the association. And so, all these courses were 4 credits each. Um, and, I taught the, the the in-season moves and the community engagement, and we've got Professor Dane Andre, which taught the performance and off-season moves. What were your thoughts and what you saw in your first semester courses?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of looks at this, as you mentioned, the standings is a very clear cut thing, right? It tells you what your team has done so far, right? It's kind of like your in season resume, but it's doesn't tell the full story, right? It there's a lot of things considered there in terms of strength of schedule. There's health, factors. I mean, there's all types of things. Like something I paid attention to is, you know, in terms of a matchup, you either win it or you lose it. And no matter how many categories you rack up during the course of the year, and how many points that looks like, I'm looking at wins and losses. Like I'm looking to see what you did. So in terms of anyone who got an A, I'm talking about people who've won. We're if we're eight matchups in, if you've won at least 6 of your matchups, you got an A. You know, you got an A. And if you're between five, really is it's all relative, right? It's all relative to how the rest of the league is doing. So really, we had a couple of teams who had six or more wins. Um, we had one or two teams with 5 wins, and that's a B. You know, myself, I was one of those teams, and GameStop. You look at GameStop, who's not very high in the win column. They're kind of a struggling team, and a team that we've kind of indicated is in the lower part of our power rankings, but quietly they've been able to win a whole bunch of their matchups, even if it's just a 5-4. I mean, the object of the game is to win. So, performance wise, they've done quite well as far as I can tell. Um, that carries down if you're about at 500, let's say, you've won 50% of your games, that'll get you about a C. And if you're below 500, meaning you have kind of pretty much a losing record, now we're talking about the D's and the F's. I mean, really, the criteria for a F is it means like you haven't won more than 2 matchups, 2 out of 8. Um,
Mm.
that's unacceptable. So, that's how I looked at it. And so we've got a few teams who are really only at a couple of wins this season, and we need those teams to kind of either tank or make some moves to improve the team, because it's not looking good right now. In season moves, what don't you tell us about that course?
Yeah, so this is a very, you know, subjective course, right? Like this is one which was, very hard to give hard and fact numbers as far as how we measure, how I measured, how folks should grade out. But one of the things which is usually a big indicator to me is, you know, what are the teams that are, reflecting on, where they're at and what they need to get to whatever destination that they're going to. And, there's, five teams in particular, which I feel like, grasped that concept really well, and made moves within the season to put themselves in a better position, whether that be now or whether that be, in some future years. And so I was just really impressed by the work by the Phoenix, the Great Danes, the Money Men, Great Danes. Getting Embiid, that really stood out to me. Phoenix, with some of the waiver wire pickups, like the Kyle Andersons and the T.J. McConnells of the world. I
Keldon
thought that
Johnson.
was really impressive. Keldon Johnson. And Money Man, putting together, the package that they did to bring over the services of Turner and the 17ers. We talked about Lonzo Ball, um, and what his potential impact could be for that team. And then we've got the Busters, man. The Busters has got their super team, and they are in the prime position to bring home a championship. And then the B rosters. I mean, B in this course didn't necessarily mean um, that you're not capable, or you would. Most of the B's here are because they didn't really make any moves, right? Like they did so much work kind of in the off season to put themselves in a good position. So they didn't really have to um, make too many changes. That is for the most teams. And so when I say that, I'm thinking about the Bombers, the Killers, and the Celtics. But the teams which really made the moves to get themselves um, a hard-earned B, through transactions and trades is the James Stockton Sparrows. I really like what those two teams did to change their fate, for the near and for the long term. And then going down to some of the C's. The C's were just, one in particular that jumps out to me is the Speedsters, man. I think they did, and you'll get into this with your course, but I think they made some bad changes, man. That I think they're realizing has hurt their near term chances of being competitive. And then we've got the True Grit and Solid State. True Grit, really hasn't been making so many moves, but I mean they did so much in the off season to be where they're at. And Solid State is, I mean, he's Solid State, and he's just pushing along. And the same thing with Titans and the Kings. And then we've only got one team that failed, and this was Klondike. I was disappointed. I mean, you're complaining about your rookie in week 9. I think that pretty much describes what your in season moves have been. If you're talking about your rookie in week 9.
Hmm.
What did you see with the off-season moves course?
Yeah, that one is pretty granular, but there is a lot of subjectivity when it comes to any of these transactions. And um, you know, I think what will benefit us moving forward is we'll start bringing on uh, these managers and getting doing some one-on-one interviews and getting an idea of what goals they have for their teams, and then we can better sort of judge the transactions they do or don't make. Because we'll have an understanding of how they feel about their team, and so we'll see if their actions line up with their goals. But terms of off season, man, it's pretty straightforward. How what I looked at, I looked at their any preseason trades. I looked at what they did during free agency in the auction draft, and and I did consider a little bit the rookie draft, what happened there. So those are all off season moves. You know how they managed and played around with their budget coming into free agency, and then what they did with their money or lack of money going to free agency. So, for example, you take a team like let's take Brooklyn Phoenix, right? You made a you made a big move for Paul George, getting a guy who puts up first round value. That's gonna do great things for you, especially when you're pairing with what you're pairing him with, right? You've already got a first round type of player in Carl Anthony Towns, and then you've got a nice young talent from Ben Simmons. So from that perspective, you're doing already a solid job there, and then with the money you did have, you brought in guys like Joe Harris. And the one knock I'll say against you in terms of free agency was you had about 8 players that you drafted, and you only have 2 of those guys still on your roster. 3 of them are out the league completely, and then there's another 3 that are on other rosters. So, but you used you used those spots as streamer spots and picked up guys that you eventually found guys that you might stick with for the rest of the season. So, Joe Harris, for example, $2. I mean, to get a guy that is top 40 value in the league at $2, that's A plus quality work. So that's just one example. But if I go into it, let's pick one of the B's. Beantown, let's say. Beantown, you know, they drafted Halliburton. I didn't really see that they did any preseason trades, so um, they must have felt okay with what they had. And in terms of their signings, I didn't love what they did during free agency, spending 60 something dollars on, let's say, Brooke Lopez. Um, some questionable signings there, but in terms of the talent they already had, it was there. So I'm sorry, I didn't give him a C. I didn't give him a B. I gave him a C. But you know, it's really that really kind of tells you, right? No preseason trades, questionable decisions when it comes to the signings, and but the one positive was their draft pick, right? So they had a nice, I think they had a top 4 pick, and landed a pretty decent guy, right? So, um, that was that. I actually didn't grade this one A through F. It was really just a B, and C, right? This is kind of like a grad school course, and really, if you get a C, it's kind of like you don't want to get a C in a grad school course. It's it's nobody fails, but you can certainly do better if you want. So let's take a look at let's say like GameStop. GameStop is one I would consider to be a B quality off season. So made a really good move in terms of clearing up cap space. Um, trading away Kyrie, but getting in return a future building block in Kelly Oubre at $13. Didn't look good in the beginning of the season, but it's looking much better now. Also got Bagley, who was flipped to bring in another asset. Um, had some money in the draft. Um, didn't spend necessarily the most responsibly. So guys like Boogie Cousins, I think was $31. That maybe at the time sounded exciting to some people, but um, now not so much. Uh, but still in all, right? When you make a good signing like Gordon Hayward at $28, that's really quality. That's a quality pick. Um, so that's like a 1 out of 4 when it comes to their free agents that they picked up. I mean, that's pretty decent, you know. So they added a quality player, cleared space, and then continued to build. And it's about looking at the roster, right? Looking at the roster forward. So uh, this manager knows how to uh, build good, strong teams, and you know has an actual build in their mind when it comes to their team. So um, that's just one example. Um, what are you considering when you look at community engagement?
Yeah, community engagement was an easy course. It's one of those courses that you use to
It's like
boost up your
participation, right?
GP. Like what?
It's like participation, right? It's like a participation
Exactly,
rate.
right, right. It's one of those things to easy pick up your GPA, right, so you can continue partying and doing whatever else you're doing in other fantasy leagues. Um, and so all you had to do was hit a like, hit a subscribe, you know, maybe say a few words in the group chat.
Yeah, group chat
Um,
is big.
and so a lot of folks met that bar, right? Like a lot of folks did a very good job of doing that. You see tons of A's and D's out there. Um, but then there's some folks, that, got C's or D's and even F's, right? There's certainly some teams, man. We need to hear from you, right? And that's an easy way, right? An easy way to get yourself a higher GPA and off the probation list. So this is, my public announcement to you guys. Say something, hit a like button, hit a subscribe. Um, Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. You know, let's talk about football. If you want to talk about football, let's talk about football. But just say something. See something, say something.
Yeah, the chat is always looking for good banter and you know and trade talk and all types of stuff. I mean, I love to look in the chat and see a trade alert coming through, or even recently, right? I mean, I you know missed out because the Sparrows posted in the chat and made players available, and because I you know I didn't have my notifications on, but had I seen that, I really would have loved to have joined in that in those trade talks, and I'm sure there's other uh, fancy managers who would have loved to, but maybe they, I don't know, is it shyness? Is it
Mhm.
just a general disengagement? Like what's happening there? What do you think? Are you going to be holding any office hours coming up and to talk more about engagement?
Man, I'm always here. I'm always online. Feel free to hit the message board, text me, do all that stuff. Because I'm here, man. And and the other thing is, if you don't agree with these grades, right? Let us know. Let us know, right? Like there's a whole process of protesting grades, and we listen, to your story. Um,
Indeed, indeed. Well, that was our first semester wrap up. We hope this inspires uh managers in the future to go for those A's across the board. We certainly love to see it. It improves the quality of our league. And yeah, any questions, just hit us up, you know. Again, like Killer said, man, give us a like, give us a comment, you know, throw some questions. Let's chat it up. Let's have these debates. We like it. All right, until next time, until next week, you guys enjoy. Good luck with your week 10 matchups, and we'll definitely be touching base soon. Good night.